Good morning, I'm Heather McMann, Executive Director of Groundwork Lawrence, and I never thought I would curse natural light, but all the great photos in here, you can always see them on the website, and I know Rose is going to do links as well. But I'm excited to be here. A lot of you know Groundwork for different parts of what we do. And this graphic here shows you've got our community engagement. Everything comes from the community, whether it's a park, a community garden, education program, an event. That's where we start. And that's where we really made the case for community gardening and urban ag overall. There was a feasibility study that brought Groundwork with the National Park Service and EPA to Lawrence. And we're talking about an immigrant population that had been growing forever, and they're guerrilla gardening on contaminated soil. So right away, how do you start dealing with that, whether it's a garden in a park or an urban farm or getting more food in other ways? And so it's all tied in. And we do start with community and physical environment, but it's all about partnerships. We couldn't do this without the city, with other nonprofits, without the schools, and specifically without the residents. And so it's tying that all together. And, we've got Groundwork Somerville here. We hopefully will have other Groundworks in the state, and there's 22 in the country, so it's a lot about sharing knowledge and really looking at what works someplace, how can we adapt it to work in our community. And so we started where a lot of people know us, is around the parks. But we opened our first garden in 2006, and we got asked to take over management of our struggling farmers market in 2006. And right away, what's the first thing we did? We looked at bringing in EBT. We're in a low-income community. How could you not accept benefits? And it's a major part of the market, is those benefits. So we're struggling a bit more now because as benefits get cut, we have to find other ways to subsidize those. And we're really seeing that hit. But at the same time, we now have 3 sites working with all the local healthcare providers because they recognize the key part of food and public health. $36,000 in benefits, that's a lot of money, and then we're matching that to help make it easier for folks with EBT who could still afford to come to the market. We're matching that dollar for dollar. And that's really important that as the hospitals and the health centers are looking at whether it's wholesome way with their own money, how can we help folks get to the market? Because that's the biggest struggle, is to understand it is affordable, to compare for that price of a tomato in a grocery store, the one we have in Lawrence and the 100 bodegas we have. How do you compare prices and value? Because you're only looking at the number, not necessarily the poundage, right? The cost versus poundage. And so it's really about partners too. The local high school is growing and selling there. We've got kids learning business skills. We've got our own green team growing, and we'll talk a little bit about that further down too. So the end of the first year of the farmers market, we've been doing a community food assessment through USDA funding. And the market's available at certain times. We've got a beginning but very small movement of community gardens that we're working on in the city to find locations for. And we was like, we should start a CSA. Now, CSA model is for the farmer, what a nonprofit's doing, thinking they can do this. We tried anyways. We went to the farmers, and Farmer Dave said, yep, I'm looking at this. I think this would be a great new model for me. We went from 1 site and 62 members, and now Farmer Dave is 20 sites, 1,200 members, over 500,000 of sales. This is his new model. He doesn't come to our market anymore, which is unfortunate, but this is a whole nother level. And then we looked and said, well, obviously we don't have the farm yet to do this. How do we meet our mission of supporting low-income communities? So Farmer Dave took off and ran with the CSA, and we offer the Share a Share program, where folks donate, foundations donate, Project Bread is huge for donating, to really help subsidize a share of the share, be it the CSA, be it matching dollars for EBT, or starter plants for the community gardens. And so $19,000 goes support those urban ag dollars. Someone asked me, why do I want to promote Farmer Dave? How is that urban ag? Is that questioning our whole idea here? And I'm like, I live in Haverhill, I live in a gateway city. I'm closer to farms than I am to the mills. Farmer Dave grows and drink it in Tewksbury. That's all part of this, and it works together. So we've also got community and schoolyard gardens, another key piece, because it's making food available to folks and how they want to do it, whether they want to grow it, buy it, or really jump into the CSA. So we've got 8 community gardens. I don't have to be jealous of Groundwork Somerville. We have on their own community urban farm. It's also backyard garden beds for folks who want to grow or are growing in their small plots, and there's none in the soil, so we can get them clean soil. And it's schoolyard gardens as well. And I also think the guerrilla gardeners, they're not going to move. When they find a vacant lot, they're growing a lot of food, so how can we help them remediate the soil? So this is where I really am involved, because through the park grant, we built some amazing community gardens, and these are before and after photos, and they're really tough to see on the screen. But one thing I'd love to talk about is one of the neighbors said, before on the vacant lot, people used to stop and throw their trash. Now they stop and take photos. It is a huge asset. So this is another economic development piece, and it's all about looking at where there's property the city owns that might be better used as an open space than it is to build more housing, because maybe it's not a great place for the fire to be able to get to. That's one of the lots that had burned down. Backyard gardens, again, it's all about getting clean soil to folks who can grow. We already heard how much you can grow in a very small amount, and that's stretching food dollars, because you can use your EBT dollars to pay for seeds for plants that are edible, that grow edible food. Schoolyard gardens. It's not just about having food available, it's recognizing it, knowing what to do with it. I mean, if you come from a home, I didn't grow up that far from here, and half the stuff I got in the CSI, I didn't know what to do with it. What am I supposed to do with that? So education, be it at the youth level, the adult level, is really important. And so with schoolyard gardens, we're serving 15,000 youth a week in the schools. There's over 300 in the summer. We've got 35 beds, 12 school gardens, and that's just a piece of it. It's just amazing when also you do these little taste tests and the youth don't want to touch it, and then soon enough they're growing it. It's amazing what they're willing to try. And then when they go home and tell their parents, and their parents show up, the farmer's market said, "My daughter told me about this thing, can you help me find it?" And again, it's looking at all the different pieces and how it's tied together. And then the urban farm at Costello Park, we have expanded that with MDAR money, as well as now bringing in a hoop house. So our green team has put together a business plan and presented it. And we thought their numbers were a little crazy, but now listening to everyone else, I think they might be more on target, and we gotta give them a little bit more credit. Last year, with their first kind of expansion, we're talking about 2,000 pounds of food. 30 youth are working in that garden. They're learning job skills, and they're getting their hands dirty, and learning about healthy living. And we're projecting at least 4,000. They said they wanted about $10,000, but their sales seems right. But they're also looking to see, can they bring it to factories like New Balance, where their staff has a half-hour lunch and can't make it to the market? So how do we use this to support some of the other things in the city as well? And once they get excited, there's no stopping them, these kids, or actually a lot of the others that are growing in the garden as well. So one question that came up when I was talking with folks is, how do you afford this? We already heard, how do you get the land? How do you raise that money, especially as a nonprofit? Or if you know it's not going to pay for itself right away. We've used the park grants, MDAR, CDBG, I forgot EPA. EPA let us remediate soil on property that is not secure. That's huge to know that that person who's doing guerrilla gardening and feeding to kids and other family members, we still can help that. And so I think that's a big thing, and EPA should be up here. But there's also, earned income. We still partner with Farmer Dave, and we get some of that then go back and go into subsidies. So we're a little bit further behind, I think, in terms of how can the earned revenue really support more of our budget, but it's always been a key piece. And it's really about, changing places, changing lives. So if this park is the right place to put a garden, or this lot, it's really listening to the community and finding that out, but also working with partners, because not every lot is the right lot. The city has plans, we all have revenue needs, and so really looking to facilitate that conversation, and then really looking to see, we can't do it all. We're not that big. But so where can we work with partners like the Mayor's Home Task Force to look at now how do we help bodega owners get more healthy food in? And it's really one step at a time, no silver bullet. But I partner with so many of you here in the room, and it's excited to be here. And I know each day we learn something new, and we get to do more each season. So thank you. Oh, but I eat a farmer on Saturdays.